All right, so for this particular video, I am going to create a teaser for an introduction to a podcast. Usually, an introduction to a podcast has a bit of music in the background, and then what comes in is a voiceover by the host of the show. So, in this particular case, I'm going to use some audio that I've already created and or that I've downloaded, and then I also am going to use my own voice as the voiceover. So before I begin, I wanted to show you that in my audio collections teaser thing, and actually I'm going to delete this project because I don't really need it anymore. But with that said, I have a piece of audio that's music that I actually created. So I'm going to use this. I don't have to ask permission from anybody else. But in either case, when you use audio for your class, you should definitely save any sort of MP3 files, WAV files, and interviews in your audio collections folder here that you're going to use in Audacity. So for me, I have a copy of the MP3 that I'm going to use as my background music in the project that I'm about to do. So with that said, I am now going to kind of take a leap, and I'm going to go back into Audacity. So in order to put the music in first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit File, and I'm going to import, and I'm going to choose audio. So when I click that, it's going to ask me which audio you want, and obviously I have already navigated to the audio that I want, and I'm going to select this musical piece called Eurydice. Now, just to give you the heads up about copyright laws and stuff like that, because I made that music myself, I don't have to ask anybody's permission to use it. However, if you use other people's music in this, you probably have about 10 seconds of fair use, and maybe not even that, depending on the band or the group. Like AC/DC, if you try to use AC/DC's audio, you'll get a copyright strike against you, like even within seconds of the thing going off. So what you need to do is pick music that is in the public domain and is royalty free. And in this case, this is in the public domain because I put it there and it's royalty free. And on top of that, I made it myself. So I'm going to select that audio, and Audacity is going to place it within the confines of the program. So as I'm looking at this, I'm going to choose the speakers to be the headphones for a second, or regular speakers. And if you listen to it, you should be able to hear it in camera. So it's coming out of the USB headphones at this point, but really that's the audio that I was going to work with. Nonetheless, I don't want all of that. In fact, I don't need all 7 minutes of this song. I'd really like to only use the first 30 seconds or so. So the best way to do this is I'm going to use the selector tool right here, and I'm going to click, and I'm going to drag and hold it down, and then I'm going to come to the end of the file, and I'm simply going to hit the delete button. So when I hit delete, it's gone. The next thing I'm going to do then is I'm going to zoom way in on the audio. Okay. And so when I zoom way in on the audio, this takes me then to like the first few seconds, and I'm actually going to zoom out just for a second. Notice this is a total of 30 seconds worth of audio. I'm probably going to not even use that much of it. So in either case, my next thing is I need to record my voiceover. So I'm going to have to record a new track. Well, how do you start a new track? You hit track, add new. And for me, I've been picking mono tracks because I think they're easiest to deal with when we're starting to talk about doing podcasting and the like. So I'm going to pick mono track. And notice that it's activated in blue. If I click here, if I hit record, it's going to start recording at the end over here. But if I click and I hit record over here, notice that there's a little line that tells me that that's where it's going to record from. So the next thing I'm going to do at this point then is I am going to actively choose to record my voiceover for this particular song. And my voiceover is going to be the introduction to this. So here we go. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Podcasting with Mr. Bailey. This is your host, Mr. Bailey. Right now, we're going over the different ways that you can use audio as background in your particular recording. So, I only wanted the audio to go for so long. The other part, too, is there is a lot of white noise here at the beginning. And in fact, I can get rid of that white noise by zooming in, and I've zoomed in. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use my selector tool. And I'm going to go all the way to the beginning of the track, which it's almost there. I did zoom in quite a bit, pretty far. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit generate, and then there's this thing called silence. And when I generate silence, it's going to ask me, is that how much silence you want? That is the duration of the silence that I just selected. I'm going to hit OK. And notice the waves disappeared. And in fact, I'm going to zoom back out. And so there's no white noise at that point in the recording. Secondly, then, my little monologue only went so far. It only went to this part. One of the things that you can do to have a cleaner transition into silence is to do a thing called fade out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click the selection tool, and I am going to select just this little bit of audio right there. And then I'm going to hit effect. And one of the effects is to fade out. So I'm going to fade out. And now you notice that the waves get smaller until they're nothing at the end of the selection. And then I can just get rid of this white noise at the end by hitting the delete key. And now the white noise is gone. So with that said, I now have a voiceover for this particular audio. So let's just give it a listen. And I have to start at the beginning. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Podcasting with Mr. Bailey. This is your host, Mr. Bailey. Right now, we're going over the different ways that you can use audio as background in your particular recording. Okay, so having listened to it, the two things go together very well. However, at this point of the music, I would like for this to have completely faded out and that it to be silence from this point onward. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to select where I want the silence to begin. And actually, I'm going to re-listen to it because I want to make sure that I chose the right point of the silence. I'm ordering. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I actually want to keep the beginning of this note right here, and then I want it to fade fairly quickly. So what I'm going to do is I selected that audio right there, effect, and then I choose to fade out. Then, because I don't really need any more audio after this particular moment, and in fact, I missed a little bit of the tail there. There we go. I can go all the way to the end of the audio that's right there until I hit the right side of it. And I can hit delete, and I'm going to go back to the beginning. And what you see here, and I'm going to zoom out a little bit, is basically the entire audio file of what you were listening to. So when I play it back, it actually sounds as if you are doing a teaser for the beginning of a podcast. So let's see how it goes. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Podcasting with Mr. Bailey. This is your host, Mr. Bailey. Right now, we're going over the different ways that you can use audio as background in your particular recording. So notice that it fades out there at the end. That's probably the best way to do it. The other part is if the background music is too loud, you can take the music down and move it to right there. If the background music isn't high enough, you can do that. The other thing is I noticed that my voiceover was a little low in volume compared to the music. So you can actually boost the volume on that track by simply boosting that just a little bit. And notice I didn't move it up a whole bunch. I only moved it up 3 decibels. If I listen to it again, it might sound a little more even. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Podcasting with Mr. Bailey. This is your host, Mr. Bailey. Right now, we're going over the different ways to. And what I noticed when I was listening to it is it was a little too echoey, so I'm only going to bump it up 1 decibel. All right, so the next thing that you should always do when you create your little teaser is you should always save your project. So I'm going to hit File, Save Project, and it's going to say, well, you're saving it as a project. That's fine. And I'm going to save it in my Audacity, and I'm going to do how to create an audio teaser with music and a voiceover. And that will be what my project is called. When I'm finally done with my project, the next thing I would do is I would export it as an MP3 file, which I've done that in a previous video. Well, thank you.